Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. We are here in Houston, and when we're in Houston, we have to stop by Knox Vintage Records, Kurt Nauck at Fort Knox, the ultimate treasure trove of antique phonographs, records, and all sorts of paraphernalia to go along with it. We are stepping into the vaults. You're not going to want to miss this. Oh yes, we are back at Knox Vintage Records. And of course that means we are here with the man himself, Kurt Nauck. Once again, thank you so much for welcoming us back to the bunker. So glad to be here. So, we've got some exciting things to look at today. Maybe a little bit of a mashup of equipment, maybe some records. What's been going on here lately?
Well, let's see, you were last here a couple of years ago, and we did a pretty good tour through the building, kind of covered a lot of, I guess, most of the rooms and kind of the big picture. And so since that time, things have pretty much been going on. This is 2,500 records. Actually, this is probably about 2,500 records. That a guy drove in from Arkansas with about a week ago and just dumped them on me, and we went through and a bunch of paper over here on the floor that I haven't even had a chance to look at yet. So, you know, we've been buying, we've been selling, we've been doing our thing. But I think maybe what we ought to do is just kind of walk around the building again, kind of refresh people as to what we do here, and you know, some of the things, and then I can bring you more up to date in terms of what's going on right now.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So this view is the same as what you got before. This is my library. This is a research library on recorded sound. Right now, it's just kind of a holding place for a bunch of stuff. Mostly phonograph horns, phonographs, some audio equipment, and so forth. You may see things here, probably do, that you saw before, or stuff that you recognize.
It's good to see it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff up here. You know, we can come back to any of these rooms if you want. I do want to stress, though, to your viewers, this is not the way I would like my place to look. This just is reflective of what's been going on here, which is a lot. A lot of things happening here at the fort, and so we'll get into that later. So this is the library. We've seen that. It isn't much to look at just from this perspective, but when you get into the shelves and start pulling stuff off, that's where it starts getting exciting. It is an awesome piece, rarest phonograph I'll ever own. All right, so let's head in here. This is, you can see I'm in the process of doing a lot of record sorting. So when I buy records, we clean them here, we sort out the stuff I can't use, and everything else I ship to Mark, my record grader. He's been grading records for me for probably 10 years now, and he lives in Tennessee, so I freight everything to him on pallets. He goes through it, we clean it, we put it in a new sleeve before we send it, and then he just grades a record, writes it on the sleeve, and it all comes back. So these are records I just got back from him a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just going through these boxes, sorting them out by category as they would appear in the auction here, 12-inch records in the back and stuff. So that's a long process. Once they get sorted, then they get organized. We put them into a database, and then from that I generate our catalogs.
And you said you've been doing this since '88, is that right?
I've actually been in the business since '84. This is our 40th anniversary.
Wow. So in that time, and as you're putting the catalogs together, you must have a sense at this point for how much of each genre you're going to need, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And here are a couple of our catalogs, just for those guys who haven't seen one before. Each one of these has between 8,000 and 10,000 records in all categories. Here's a table of contents. I don't know if you can get close on that, but kind of gives your viewers an idea of the kind of stuff they're going to find in one of our catalogs.
Yeah.
Basically, anything with a groove on it, recorded before 1960, not including LPs and 45s. So that's what we primarily deal in, and that's what's going on in this particular room. But the whole shop is kind of in a mess right now because we've been doing something really different this time. So our 75th auction was this last spring in April. That's when it closed. And normally I'd be doing auction number 76 right now in the fall, because we do one in the spring, one in the fall. But there was a lot of stuff in here, and you guys got a lot of pictures of some of that stuff in here. These display cases were full of really wondrous treasures. And I decided that it's time to start moving some of that material. So instead of doing our record auction, I did what we call a vintage stuff auction.
Awesome.
So now instead of Knox Vintage Records, right now we're Knox Vintage Stuff.
Okay.
And stuff is a pretty big category, so I can pretty much
anything,
do any kind of stuff.
Anything fits into that, right?
Anything, right. So so that's exactly what we did. It actually, so we introduced a vintage stuff auction, I guess the end of September. And the way we did that, instead of printing a catalog like this, because it was mostly visual stuff, we recorded it on a series of 8 YouTube videos, which are on YouTube right now. You'll probably put a link in.
Yeah, we'll link to it. Yep.
And so those 8 videos comprise the entire auction. And I didn't even lot, everything in the catalog has a lot number associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So this record might be lot 800 in an auction, okay? Simple enough. And when you get the catalog, you say, oh, 800 is that, and you bid on it. Well, in the stuff auction, that seemed to be the more difficult way of doing it. So what I did is I showed the stuff without any lot numbers. And then Raquel, my videographer, when she went through editing the video, she assigned lot numbers consecutively for everything I showed.
Mm-hmm.
So we lotted it as we did the video.
Okay.
And then then we have a PDF file you can download on our website that sees a full listing by lot number. So if you want to bid on that item that you saw in the video, you look on the screen, it says item 33.
Right.
Or you look in the printout, it'll tell you what it is. And then you submit your bids in that fashion. So we did a little bit backwards this time, but it worked out really well. So I was kind of pleased with that. I picked this up in June in Oakland. Get a load of that.
Wow. Okay, I said it. Wow.
All right, so that is, put my glasses on here.
Dixie and Bing.
To my dear friends, Dixie and Bing, my sincere good wishes always, Ruth Edding, 1938.
Wow.
So Ruth Edding was a very famous, well-known female vocalist back in the 20s and 30s. That portrait that you see there actually sold in the Bing Crosby estate in the 1980s at Butterfields in San Francisco.
Amazing.
So that was in Bing's house.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're right. That was cool. That's all cool, though. I mean, there's nothing not cool here.
This is our studio. Mm-hmm. This is where we can basically record anything with a groove on it, digitize it, and this is where we do our bidder request shows when we do an auction catalog. And you got a chance to listen to one of those.
I love it. It's good entertainment, even when you're not, it can be an old show for an auction that's over with, and it's still a fantastic piece of entertainment and education as well.
It's typically about 15 hours long, featuring records that are in the auction when we produce it, so that people can kind of get a chance to hear and experience some of those recordings that they might wind up wanting to bid on. But
Right.
We have a lot of listeners who don't collect records at all. They just like listening to it because we talk about the artist, the history behind the record labels, the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a whole lot of fun. So this is the room which normally, well, I guess it is today too. This is where we keep our auction stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Usually this would have been filled with records. It may have been filled with records.
It was before, yeah.
Was it? All right, so now it's filled with stuff.
First thing that's standing out to me is this life or death mask over here.
Oh well, you go straight to the heart of the matter now, don't you? So that is a death mask. Are you familiar with death masks?
I am.
Well, most people are not, because they're not that common today, like they were 100, 200 years ago. But that is a death mask of Enrico Caruso.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not the only one that exists. The guy who founded the museum from where this came said he was aware of 3 copies, but I haven't been able to locate those copies. He died a couple of years ago, which is how I wound up with this. The day Caruso died in Naples, Italy, in August 2nd, 1921, there was a sculptor by the name of Ciffariello, who came in and made the death mask while he was still laying in the hotel where he had passed away. So here's a picture of the sculptor working on the mask.
Okay.
All right, so here we have the mask that he's working on, that same pedestal.
Right.
We see it blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see here is painted out with black, and we see a little file number here. And you look at that and you say, oh, that's kind of weird. Why would somebody have even done that? Well, this photo, what does that say? Oh, must. Photo number must match caption number. All right, warning, credit photo by Underwood in Underwood, New York. A death mask of Caruso. Photo shows a death mask made by Ciffariello of Enrico Caruso, made shortly after the recent demise of the great tenor in Naples. It's dated 8/22/21, and he died, as it says here, on August 2nd, 1921. So this dates just 20 days, 3 weeks basically. There's your reference number stamp. Just 3 weeks after he died. This is the photograph that was used in the Hearst newspapers.
Amazing.
This came out of the Hearst archive in San Francisco. How Aldo, who founded the museum, got this picture, I have no idea. But to have this picture with the mask is pretty dang cool.
That's a very
when you say cool, that's
piece
cool,
of history.
right?
Yes, exactly. Wow.
This is a bust of Caruso done by himself.
I remember
1909. Did you get that when you were here before?
Yep, I remember that.
So he was a sculptor. He was also a caricaturist, and I think you probably got that over there.
I remember this. Yes.
So that is a Caruso piece. I got to tell your audience, okay, Record-ology audience, listen up. Go to, if you're interested in any of the stuff we're talking about right now, you need to go to video number 8 of the series for the Vintage Stuff Auction, because that's when that entire video is pretty much devoted to Caruso's last year and basically his demise and what caused his death, because it kind of centers around the death mask. The guy who gave Caruso his last rites in Naples is Father Tonello, and this is a 1907 caricature of him. He was the personal priest of Caruso, and I mean, not like he followed him around anywhere. But he was certainly on hand, and it's very cool to have an original caricature of him by Caruso. These caricatures, most of them appeared in a magazine called La Follia, an Italian magazine in New York City, and the editor of that magazine, the publisher, was Marziale Sisca, and his son was Michael Sisca. So Michael Sisca presented this to the museum in 1991.
Amazing.
And here we see the same sort of stamp that we saw on the back of that photo, which would have been used in production in a magazine. Caruso would do the drawings, send them over to Marziale, and he would publish them in the magazine. So a lot of his stuff was published in magazines. In fact, I've got a book here that we can look at. This one isn't in the greatest shape, but this is the 1914 edition of caricatures published by La Follia, and this is just
wow.
He was a, look at this. He starts with a C and he winds up with his head.
Amazing.
Starts with an S and he winds up with Scotty's head.
And an R at the bottom. Wow.
He was just so talented. Giacomo Puccini. So he did, these are all caricatures of people from the stage, primarily opera singers, impresarios, conductors, musicians, and so forth. But as we saw in the other room, he would also do, I've got that one, that exact one back there, the original in a frame, Georgia Kane. And there are a couple out of this book that are actually in this current stuff auction. This one right here, Briganti, he's in the stuff auction. You'll probably see him in video number 2 or something.
Amazing.
So, and then here are world figures. The late Leopold II, King of Belgium. That Teddy Roosevelt is in here somewhere.
Oh, right there.
Right. We just saw that, didn't we?
Saw it, yeah.
That's him.
There he is.
So it is a real blessing to be able to handle this material. I mean, this is historical material of the highest order. This is just very, very cool stuff. Caruso really took a turn for the worse in December of 1920, and right at the end of that month had to have an operation. Dr. Stella was one of about 6 doctors attending him at that moment, and here we have Dr. Stella's bill came out. He sent the bill on May the 26th, just a couple of days before Caruso left for Italy, never to return, and for services rendered, $15,850.
An incredible sum back then. Even today, not chump change.
He got the good buddy discount, rounded off to $15,000. But Dr. Stella was a very, very significant figure in this whole situation having to do with his final days. To have this caricature with the original invoice for those services is, again, I mean, just amazing. So this is the final photograph of Caruso, the last photograph, and it was reproduced in newspapers the day after his death all over the world. Last photograph of Caruso. That was taken a couple of weeks before he died. But it really wasn't the last photograph. Because look at this.
Naturally, you would have the actual last photograph.
Well, I wish I did. I've got a copy of it, though.
Amazing.
Same guy, same balcony, same period of time, but this time without his shirt.
Yeah.
This incision, based on what he says here in this letter that he wrote to Dr. Stella, that we just saw in that caricature, talks about how this wound still has a little hole in it. Here are a couple of earlier incision scars. He was in a very difficult time right now. Nobody knew it, but he had this big abscess just below his kidney in his back, and it ruptured, and he died from septic peritonitis.
Wow!
So this picture is really the last picture.
Amazing.
But
how quick?
But it actually isn't the real last picture.
Oh, there's another.
There is another last picture.
But how soon before he passed was this taken again? A couple
so
weeks?
So he died on August the 2nd. This is July 19th.
Okay.
So we can see just a couple of weeks before.
Okay.
Yeah. I have literally seen more 78s probably than any person on the planet. And I'm not just saying that. I'm sure it's probably true. I've seen millions and millions of them. I've only ever seen 2 Caruso autographed 78s. This one and another one back in the back room in the archive that I'm keeping, both of which came from the museum. Okay, this is a great story.
Okay.
Do we have time for a story?
We'd have time.
All right. Aldo Mancusi, who founded the Caruso Museum, was a good friend. I'd visited him several times up in Brooklyn. Bought some really cool stuff from him, though not Caruso related, because that was a museum collection. When he passed away, his daughter called me, and I went up there. And I wound up buying a number of things, such as a death mask and these other things that we're looking at. I was the last person in the place when I left. Everything else just went into the dumpster. That was a year and a half ago. Then from there, I went up to visit a friend of mine on Long Island in Glen Cove, who runs a place called the Piano Exchange. And this guy has pianos like I got records. You go into his archive of pianos, he's just got grand pianos stacked on edge, just in rows.
Amazing.
Like dominoes. Anyway, we were talking, and we were in his main warehouse, and he was telling me how he had rented out the front of his warehouse to an auction house in New York City, and they were doing monthly auctions there. And so we were just walking around looking at the auction stuff, and there was a rack with some overcoats, and I kind of need an overcoat. I live in Houston. You know, one of the days out of the year would come in handy. So
Right.
So I said, I want to bid on one. I tried them on. A couple of them fit me real well. I said, I want to bid on one of these. But it turns out you couldn't bid on one. You had to bid on all 4. Okay, so I'll bid on all 4. I'll sell 3. I'll get 1 free. So that's what happened. I paid $650 for these overcoats. And when I got here, I was, as usual, way too busy to look at overcoats. But every couple of weeks, I would pull one out of the box, you know, try it on, look at it, and do a little research on the designer, see what I had. Well, it turns out these were exceptionally nice overcoats. I mean, they all sold for probably $1,500 to $3,000 originally. Some very well-known designers and so forth. But there was one that I didn't see anything on it. And it was really the one I cared for the least, anyhow. But I turned the inside breast pocket inside out, and there was a hand-sewn tag inside there. Simpson and London Limited. Handwritten on it, HRH, the Prince of Wales.
Wow.
1934.
Amazing.
I could not believe it. This is a terrible picture, but this is the Prince of Wales now wearing the overcoat that I bought as King Edward VIII, leading the funeral procession of his father, King George V.
Amazing. The fact that it was even in here is just amazing. Incredible story.
Can you believe that?
That is an incredible story.
Now, he abdicated the throne. A very famous radio address. I have many copies on 78. And his younger brother had to step up into the role of king, who didn't want it and couldn't speak. And you may have watched the movie The King's Speech.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
It's a great movie.
Okay.
And so it kind of tells a story about all the circumstances that went on and his difficulty with stuttering and so forth and how he had to address the nation.
Right.
It's an amazing story, true story.
I'll have to check that out.
So anyway, having that overcoat's very cool. This right here is a piece of the nutria fur lining from inside the king's overcoat.
Oh my goodness.
That is yours to take home.
Wow.
Mr. Record-ology, you got something last time, now you have something this time.
This is incredible. This was from the coat of the King of England.
That was keeping King Edward VIII warm during his father's funeral procession. How about that?
That's speechless.
All right, so that overcoat I wore in the auction, video number 1 as lot number 1 in the catalog.
Okay.
And I told my guys, if you are interested in this, I need your bids in 2 days, because otherwise it's going to London for a royalty auction.
Amazing.
So, which it did. It'll be sold in November, and it's the highlight of their auction. This thing's sold by Sotheby's as part of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor estate for over $20,000.
Wow.
So I don't know what I'm going to get for it.
That's incredible.
It's going to be more than $650.
The history, the story behind it is just incredible.
I gotta just say, God has blessed me from the very beginning in this business. He really has. I mean, I never expected to be in this, and I never expected to. It's a long story. I may have even told you guys at dinner one night, but God brought me into this for a reason. This has been my career, and it's now my time to move on. And part of what we're doing here is selling down my inventory so I can go out and do some different things, some more important things. But things like that, God has just dropped these things. I didn't do anything to deserve it. I certainly didn't know what I was going to look at when I was looking at overcoats and Rick's warehouse full of pianos.
Right.
But there it was.
Amazing.
And I am just very thankful.
Yeah.
So I've been really, really blessed.
Incredible.
So let's look at some of the rest of the stuff in this room. So what next are you interested in?
Oh my goodness. So
you got a good eye there, buddy.
This is very visual. There's a lot here. I see. Let me pick out a couple of things. So this little portable phonograph, one of the early, it's like the granddaddy of the sound burger. Tell us about this.
Or to my generation, the Walkman.
True, exactly.
Walkman was a little cassette player.
Yep.
So this is a Thorin's camera phone. The tone arm goes there. Crank.
Incredibly compact.
Fits there. And basically that's the way this thing works. And then of course this comes off and this goes here.
That is
and
a
you screw
clean
that
example,
down like
too.
so. This is a mint example. I don't use the word mint very often, but this one truly is. This is basically unused. Look at that. I mean,
how would something like this avoid corrosion? Like, what conditions would it have to be in?
Fort Knox. That's what you'd have to do.
Away from environment, humidity, salt, I would assume.
Yeah, kids.
Kids.
But this is, you put that whole thing together. Take it with you to the beach with your little box of records.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we actually played this on the Vintage Stuff auction video, and we demonstrated virtually everything that I'm selling here. Anything that was mechanical, we actually went through the works so people could see how it works, how it sounds, you know, what it does. You put your record on there, you'd screw it down with your little screw down, and then you would just turn it on. It's because it's brand new. You can't even hear the motor.
Silent.
Isn't that amazing? And we played through an entire 10-inch 78. I mean, it didn't slow down. The spring's good. It's just a very, very cool little device. So somebody is going to get very happy winning that. Let's look at a couple of things. Here is this is actually recent. I bought this from a guy in Florida back in the early 2000s, probably about 20 years ago. And I think he had this made, so this is probably the only one that exists. But you can backlight it. Well, here we go. So it's actually clear here, and the mirror is surrounding it. And there's a little hole here. You could put a little light behind it, and it really looks very nice at night. As a little night light or something, that's an awesome piece. We talked about King George VI, who was the brother of the Prince of Wales, Edward VIII, who acceded to the throne in 1937. This is 37 was the coronation year of that king. It came after the one who had the coat. And these plaques were done up by the gramophone company to send to all of their dealers and distributors.
Amazing.
Sterling silver plaque. It's pretty cool. And then you may have seen, or maybe we talked about it when you were here before, we had some little jiggly dancing figures. Did we play one?
I think so, yeah. We put them on the record and it dances. Yeah, those are awesome.
So I sold all of those in this catalog. Now, when your guys are watching it, if they're not watching it too late, they can still bid on these things.
That would be great.
Because you're filming here a couple of days before the auction closes. So this is the rarest of the phonograph toys. This is Uncle Sam kicking the Kaiser. You can see a little, little
U-boat pretzel.
Submarine.
How funny.
Yeah, so here's the fighting cocks right here. This is a nice little thing. This is a little Victrola that's an inkwell.
Wow.
You can see a little pin nibs and everything in
Yeah.
there. Here's a dog. I wonder if your Record-ology guys know what his name is.
That wouldn't be Nipper by any chance, would it?
It might be. Yes, it is. That's Nipper. They say the RCA dog. No, he was the Victor Talking Machine and the Gramophone Company dog.
Now, I don't know if we talked about this before, but is it a rumor or is it fact that initially he was on the coffin of his owner, and that whole story of, it's so realistic, he thought it was his owner's voice when it was the recorded voice of his deceased owner?
Well, that is a theory.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know for sure about that. Some people think that's ridiculous.
So, unconfirmed, but possible.
But it's possible because the surface, if you look at the original painting, the surface of the table that he's sitting on actually tapers back to a point. They're not parallel edges. And to have a long tapered table is kind of weird unless you had a particular space for it.
Right.
And Francis Barreau, the painter, he was pretty sharp. He was a good painter. He would not have made that mistake. That was intentional.
That was intentional.
Now, maybe it was just because it looked better to the casual observer and he didn't really care about the perspectives that much. But it certainly could be a coffin.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
A Pathé globe. I've never seen another. It's kind of like one of your gas pump globes made by the same company, one of the same companies that did those. I've never seen another one phonograph related.
Is that milk glass?
That's milk glass, yeah, with kind of a, I don't know if it's sandblasted or how they did that, but it's you know, it's very textured, and then they would paint it, and it looks really, it looks great just like that, but also looks great with a light on inside of it.
How about this horn to the right of that?
So this is a radio horn. So come over here. So this is a RCA super heterodyne radiola from the 1920s, and so it's the same kind of deal. That's what we were talking about is the same as this. It's called a horn speaker. So a horn speaker would go with a battery set, and that's obviously where the sound would come out, and the bell amplifies the sound, just like those phonograph horns. That's what the bell does. It's an amplification device.
Completely acoustic in the bell itself, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, in the bell itself is. Now, in this case, and in that case, they are driven by electricity. There's a little electrical driver because you've got a circuit coming up through the wire. In a phonograph case, that's not true. You've got a vibrating mica diaphragm, or aluminum or whatever it might be, that's causing the sound waves, and it's amplifying that. So, I mean, that is tortoiseshell bell. That is absolutely brand new. It's like it's very much like the camera phone we just looked at, the Thorens camera phone. That is untouched, probably unused.
And what year would this date?
It would have been 1920s, late 1920s, maybe early 1930s. But that is just such a beautiful piece. I mean, whether or not it's working, whether or not it's even hooked up to anything, it's
just beautiful.
It's just killer.
So I had a question about this case up here.
Yeah.
Was this like a AFRS discs, or would this be V discs? Okay.
So V discs were 12 inches in diameter, and when those were sold, they came in boxes that look like. Like this. So here's a V-disc box.
Amazing.
Release I. So I included these 20 records from 201 through 220 over here. All right. And so they were packed in these things and sent overseas along with a pack of needles. Yeah, here we go. So it would have come with one of these packs of needles.
Incredible.
So what we're looking at up there on the shelf is very similar to V-discs, but those were radio transcriptions meant to be broadcast. These were more for just playing in an army post or a base or something, and they'd sit around and listen to it.
Not for broadcast, just for troop consumption.
Right. Whereas the ones that would have come in here wouldn't have been broadcast.
Got it.
And they are your 16-inch electrical transcription records that you're familiar with.
33 RPM vinyl, right?
33 vinyl, yeah. They play 15 minutes a side, and they could have either a radio show like Fibber, McGee, and Molly. A 15-minute show would be one side, 30 minute would be two sides, 1 hour, two records. Or they could just be music library tracks.
Okay.
But yeah, that thing turned up just 5 miles from here in an antique mall, and guy came in and said, "Hey, Kurt, there's something down there you may want to go look at." And I did. There were actually two of them. By the time I got there was one.
I wonder if
I was very happy to get one. That is something that, again, this is perfect. Look at that.
It's
That's
so
not
clean.
All beat up.
It is so clean.
It is beautiful inside and out, and I mean, it's one of those things. If you wanted that, you would look a lifetime. You'd never find one of those. But there it is. Okay, another really cool thing in here is this. So this is a 7-inch record cabinet. So this, your very first records were made by Berliner. He was kind of the inventor-developer of the disc phonograph. And although his very first machines that were made very early in 1888 to 94, that range, played a small 5-inch disc. The later Berliner machines and records that he produced here in the United States were all 7-inch. So this is a 7-inch record cabinet in just, again, virtually brand new condition. Just an exquisite piece, and very, very rare, and very desirable, because you'd love to have a little 7-inch machine to sit on top of that.
Gorgeous. And these were Weren't these like premiums for record stores to sell, like little brushes?
Yeah, premiums or some of them would have been sold, but yeah, and I sold a lot of these in this particular auction, or they are for sale as we speak. They haven't been sold yet. Guys, get your bids in, check out the videos, download the catalog. This is a 7-inch phonograph right here, which is a Zonophone, which came out pretty close to the same time this cabinet was produced. This is very cool. This is an original Victor record holder. As you can see, it's holding a record. Actually, it's holding an Argentine pressing of a record, which is meant as a display.
So a single-sided record with a playable
Well,
side
it's
on the
actually a two-sided record, a normal two-sided record. This is the regular side.
Okay.
That you see, Edgardo Donato. On this side, this is a piece of paper that was put on top of the whole side. But what's in the grooves actually is the flip side of this record.
Amazing.
So if you play this, you can hear very faintly in the background what this paper is covering.
Through the paper, you could actually play it through the paper.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you're going to have a hard time making much out of it, but it's there. This is an Edison diamond disc that's been painted on top of, and but it is an actual Edison record. You know, your diamond disc records, as you know, are these 1/4-inch thick things.
Wood flower filled.
Yeah, with the celluloid lamination on the top. You see that side has been played a lot. And this side has been played some. So it looks like they were taking used records to do this, because you can see that nobody's really played over the paint here, but there's definitely wear in these grooves. So they were just taking reject diamond discs and making advertising pieces out of them, which is very cool. Here are two more. These were not in the auction. That one is. I didn't have time to get to these. These will be probably in vintage stuff auction number 2. There are a number of things in this room that we didn't have time to get to. This is probably the star record duster in the entire auction. Look at that. That's a Sarah Martin blues singer. She's credited with the very first blues recording issued on the OK label, around 1922, I think. And to have her featured and pictured on a OK record duster, I mean, that is just so cool.
Amazing.
I've had a couple of other OK dusters like this featuring other artists, and I can't even remember now who they were, but those are very rare.
Yeah. There's a famous Bing Crosby one I've seen.
Really? Do you have it?
I don't. It's got the poof on the back is denser than that one.
Let's see what we got over here, Kevin. Would it look like something like
Oh my gosh, you have one. Wow. That is so cool. I've only seen pictures. That is so
That's
cool.
lot number 4.
Lot number 4,
you
folks.
could be the lucky guy.
That is so cool.
You'll have to bid on it.
That is beautiful. Can I touch it?
Sure. Okay.
That's so cool.
Hold it. Caress it.
Caress it and dream. That is neat. Yeah, and this yellow is and then the record store would put its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have your record store dealer down here. That's often, interesting. 60 years in Oshkosh. Oshkosh is where that's what founded the beginning of my company. 40 years. This is our 40th anniversary, and I got my start in a big way in phonographs and records by flying to Oshkosh and buying the lifetime collection of the guy up there.
Wow, that started it all.
He was like 22 years old.
Amazing.
Here is His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, the guy who owned that coat. But this is a much earlier picture of him. This is a recording that he had made for the gramophone company called Sportsmanship in the early 1920s.
Absolutely incredible. Oh, neat.
Got a lot of signed. I'm going to be getting glare.
Russ Morgan. Yes.
So
I know this name.
I bought a collection from a guy, actually from his widow. He had died about a month or two earlier, who was a big band collector, but he was a personal friend of Russ Morgan's. Here we have Glenn Gray and the Casaloma Orchestra.
Oh, yeah. Famous band. One of the greats. Harry James. Wow.
Yeah.
To Marty, best of luck to you. Be a good soldier, Harry James.
Isn't that cool?
That's incredible.
I mean, the picture's kind of beat up, but what a cool inscription.
Incredible.
Guy going off to World War II.
Yeah.
And Harry James wrote a message.
Wow.
And who we have there?
And there's Benny Goodman.
To Sparky.
To Sparky.
So, again, we're talking records here. These are records that were just being given away with some of the phonographs. I sold a group of advertising or display records. So here we have a paper pathé.
Amazing.
To use in your window so that it doesn't melt and warp in the heat.
Okay, that makes sense. So that one doesn't have anything recorded on it. It's just a display only.
Now this one has 2 silent grooves recorded on it, but it is shellac, and this would melt in your window. But maybe in England you wouldn't have had quite as much of an issue as you would down here. That one's kind of beat up. That's just the front of a nice looking album.
Yeah.
This is the Caruso picture record, issued by Victor in the early 1930s, using that picture that we saw earlier. Again, advertised at the time as the last picture of Caruso, but it really wasn't.
Perhaps the last publicly released picture.
Yes, definitely the last publicly released. Oh, look at this. This is a Singatina. You ever seen a Singatina? I actually play one on my show.
Okay.
I'm sure that'll drive a lot of people to it.
Cool. It will to me.
This right here is very cool from a record standpoint, because this record demonstration of the musical instrument, when you listen to this, it's a guy saying, hey, check out the new Singatina. He gives a whole spiel. And this would have been played in the store next to a pile of Singatinas as just a come-on device. I don't know if they had a guy sitting there just replaying a record, or if this was hooked up to some kind of a motion-activated sensor, or how this got played, but it actually is made to be played as part of the store advertising. And so that we don't disappoint, we actually have a Singatina here, and this, of course, you'll notice is the professional official model.
The professional.
The professional official model. That is your Singatina. And, buddy, these things come in all kinds of different colors. So at a dime a piece, you could outfit your entire band, a 10-piece band, for $1. How about that?
That is amazing.
It's basically just a glorified kazoo. Display record that Victor came out with. Again, this is shellac, so it wouldn't stand up very good in a real hot window display.
Single-sided.
That's very rare. I think this may be the only one of those I've ever seen.
And is there anything, is that just fake groove?
Yeah, that's a silent groove.
Okay.
Now this, unfortunately, somebody's played over it a few times, so we've got some facial loss here. But this is a real record on both sides. This is Ricard Tower. Here's an example of a record that's got 2 labels. Yeah. Or sometimes you'll find where they've got two labels in the press.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a world record. This is let's see this world record. All right.
Here's a world record for you.
So as the record plays, the phonograph speeds up. So the groove velocity in relation to the playback stylus remains constant.
Continual linear velocity.
Linear velocity, exactly. Well, how would you have done that with a disc record? It's built into the cylinder system, but on a disc, that's an engineering difficulty. So one would do that by using the world record controller. It was invented by a man by the name of Noel Pemberton Billing, who was a British politician and did a lot of things. He was a very interesting guy. You mount this onto the phonograph next to the turntable, and then this wheel turns. There's a governor there, and you set the governor at whatever speed that you want it to operate at based on the record. The record that we looked at had a little lozenge on it that tells you, it said D, fast. So you set it up here to D, going fast, or D slow here, or C, B, whatever it might be. And so this is mounted, and then there's a rubber tire or wheel here, which has fallen off.
Right.
But that rubs up against the turntable. As the turntable turns, it's moving this entire mechanism by this feed screw across the record. So as the needle is tracking this way, the wheel is getting closer to the label in the same way that the tone arm is moving. And so this governor here overrides what the governor inside the machine is doing.
Right.
So this one basically takes over. So the closer it gets, the faster this thing spins.
Right.
It's a
incredible.
I would not have come up with this. So take a look at this. This is crazy. We had a lot of fun with this.
It's like a belt of records.
Barrajoy Belt of California. I've had this thing for years with nothing on it, but I finally put these on. These are little 3-inch playable Decca records.
Wow, so it's like the first fashion accessory record. It's like pocket. It's like a hip pocket records.
Hip pocket records, yeah.
And then eventually, like the little tapes, the pocket rockers, and the hit clips. After that, this is like the granddaddy of that thought process. That's amazing. Fashion accessory and music.
Yeah, the idea is that you would wear this to a party, and you just unclip one of your records, and you whip out your Singatina, and you guys would just sit there and jam for about 34 seconds.
There you go. While the tunes happen.
That was fun.
Yeah.
You want to listen to this one?
I got 2 more. Yeah.
So this is something maybe your viewers haven't seen before. This is a coin-operated phonograph, introduced in 1898. So people think that jukeboxes were, kind of a thing.
Right.
Came out in the 30s. No, jukeboxes have been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
In fact, your very first phonographs were either business dictation devices or arcade machines from the early 1890s. And so basically that's what we have here. Now let's see, do I have a nickel? We'll just have to swipe one out of the machine. Look at that. Apparently I've been making some money.
Yeah, I was going to say slowly making some money there.
Yeah, really. A couple hundred years, I'll pay this thing off. So anyway, so you come into your little arcade place or bar or hotel lobby, whatever it was, and you'd want to hear a phonograph record, a little cylinder. Okay, so you could have a horn like this on it, but more likely you would have ear tubes. Because when you got a horn, now everybody's standing around you can hear it, and nobody has to pay another
private
record,
listening,
right?
yeah.
That kind of defeats the purpose. So with the ear tubes, you get a much better fidelity sound. It blocks out the extraneous noise, or kind of ear noise canceling, right?
Sure.
You shove those things in your ears, and you hear it real well. And the next guy, he's got to do the same thing if he wants to hear it. You're sitting there laughing or crying, whatever. All right, so the way this thing works is you come up to the machine and you're going to drop. Are you getting a bunch of glare here?
No, this is good.
So I'm going to drop it in here. It's going to go down that chute, and then there's a little paddle.
Okay.
Kind of a little lever down there.
All right, we'll try to capture the whole process.
You ready?
Yep.
That's all it did, right? What it did is it just moved that little paddle down, which raised a tooth from this cogged wheel on the left that is going to now unlock the machine for me to wind it up.
Okay.
So now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wind this baby up. You can get close and see the motor.
Yeah.
I'm winding that up. I'm going to do it until it stops. I can't go any further. It's locked into position.
Got it.
Oh, no! We ought to have a cylinder on there. Hold that thought.
In Storm and Sunshine, March, played by the Edison Concert Band.
Ah, you thought it was about over, didn't you?
That's amazing.
Snuck up on you there. Okay, so that's pretty old. That's what, 125 years, give or take a couple of years. Then we have some of the newer stuff. These Macintosh 30 amps are pretty sweet.
Yes,
Especially
desirable.
in that condition. Really, really nice. Beautiful chrome. I've had them serviced. They are ready to go. A couple of EMF, what are called special application control monitor SACM speakers from about 40 or 50 years ago. Those are very high-end speakers, and they're selling in the auction either as a set or as part of a system, which includes this Mark Levinson Madrigal 333 amp, 300 watts per channel. Comes with its own little rolling bass. Because it's going to take two guys to pick that thing up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you. Look at this. If you're into political stuff, we talk a little bit of politics here already. What do we have? This is a complete set that was given to Matthew J. Connolly, who was the appointments secretary for President Truman. This is all of Truman's radio speeches.
Amazing.
This was not made for sale to anyone. There was a set made. I'm sure there was probably something sent to the White House. Probably, I know that the Truman Archives has this set because I contacted them. Probably the National Archives has a set. Probably the Library of Congress has a set. But this is the only set I've ever personally seen or heard of. And they go up all the way up to 1948, and then they stop. Probably because that's the year that Columbia introduced the LP. So
Right.
instead of having a huge set like this, with 12-inch 78s, now you could get those speeches on LPs, and you take up a whole lot less space with a whole lot less cost.
That's incredible. That's a
So-
lot of speeches right there.
That's 192 records, all being sold as one lot, all basically brand new. I mean, the covers are a little worn and faded, but the records themselves are perfect.
Right.
All right, so getting back to this system that we were looking at, come in here. This is being sold, as well as the Mark Levinson Madrigal equipment below it.
Incredible.
This system, with all of this, the amplifier and speakers we just looked at, the Benz micro cartridge, moving coil cartridge, and the SME, the SME Series 5 tone arm. This whole system cost close to $40,000 new.
$40,000.
$40,000.
Incredible.
And that's just an amazing turntable.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that just? I mean, who cares what it sounds like?
It's a work
You
of
wanna sit there
art.
and stand and look at it.
It's a work of art.
For the Victor Talking Machine.
Top of the
Company,
line, Victor.
It came with this horn right here, nice brass bill, large horn.
Mm-hmm.
Down there's a Victor Model D, which is a very early machine. That's around 1903, I believe.
Is that horn
Nice-
wood?
Yeah, that's a nice wooden oak horn.
Amazing.
We got some World War I posters. Anybody
Those are
wants that
cool.
kind of stuff?
Yeah.
You probably got some of those in your previous video when you were here. Now they're going to find new homes. So anyway, so when you came here first, I was in the record business. Now I'm in the stuff business. But after about a month goes by, I'm going to be back in the record business.
Okay. And do you anticipate doing one of the stuff auctions again?
We will. We plan on doing vintage stuff auction number 2 next year.
Okay. Excellent. So if people haven't, jumped on board with the auctions, how does that work? What is the process like?
So there's going to be a link for the video series of 8 videos that shows everything. And then there's going to be another link for the PDF file, which you will open up, and that will give you an entire listing, almost 400 different items in the stuff auction. And you can just scan that, and that entire list is broken up into 8 videos. So
Okay.
you'll know which video to go to if you're interested in something.
Perfect.
And since everything is in numerical order by lot number, if you're looking for lot number 268 and it's in video, 7, you go to video 7, you can go straight to 268
Okay.
and see what it is.
And the deadline is this Saturday, the 26th.
Saturday, October the 26th.
Okay.
If you tell me that you're a Record-ology guy, I will give you probably until Monday to get bids in.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Because it's not, I mean, like I say, there's close to 10 hours of video there.
I bet.
I'm trying to force a guy to sit through all of that. His wife may not appreciate it.
But he'll love it. He'll love it.
Yes, he'll love it.
Love it.
Yeah, get your bids into me as soon as you can, either by email or using the online bid sheet, or if necessary, just give me a call.
Perfect.
Don't put them in the mail.
Okay. Yeah, no time for that. Well, thank you as always for the incredible tour, and just so thankful to have this time to check out all this history. And that's really what it boils down to for me, is just the stories, the history, you know, amazing. So thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure having you guys out here, and I look forward to the next time.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
All right, my friends, and that is going to do it. Always a splendid time. Just incredibly grateful to Kurt. Definitely check out the auction links down below. Get your bid in right away if you're seeing this in time. If not, don't worry, they do auctions throughout the year. So there's definitely others you can check out. Plus, it's just fun to check out all this stuff, even, you know, if you're not purchasing anything, just to learn about the history and everything. So a huge thank you again to Kurt for everything. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this. There's just so much vintage goodness there, and I hope you enjoyed it. I love doing these videos, but I want to say a huge thank you to you for being there. Wouldn't be possible without you. So happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.